so soothing.
Yeah.
So tender.
It's really tender, and that's what I really loved about it.
It invites you to close your eyes. Actually.
Yes. Why this one? Why this one out of all?
That tenderness, it just reminds me to be gentle with myself. I can be hard on myself, and I grew up with that, and the learning that through my journey, I've just learned to be more tender, and that's a reminder because it comes and goes.
It's beautiful.
And I think that's the role that music in general plays. We all have our own interpretations. We all have our own genres of music, even though, death metal, I don't know what kind of genre. But hey, respect for those who enjoy that.
And some of them are memories. They evoke memories.
Yes.
Some of them are just to lean into, for like what you just said. Like it's so just to remind yourself of what you need.
Yes,
it's so sweet.
Yeah,
it's so beautiful.
Yeah, it is. I love it.
It has a childlike thing to it. You know how children have these lullaby kind of thing. It has that childlike thing.
Hello and welcome to Forward Moves, hosted by Lina, Nahhas and Raja Haddad, a conversation with our guests about the path of their successful journey, where they started and what kept them moving forward in an ever-changing environment, and what enabled them to create impact in space and with themselves that are both in perpetual movements. Hello, Sumaya Dabbagh. How are you?
I'm very well. Hi, Raja. Hi, Lina. I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, we're so delighted you came.
We are so thrilled to have you with us and talk about all the beautiful things you have achieved in your career and elsewhere. And most importantly, what keeps you moving forward on this wonderful path that you have charted for yourself and the world around you.
Thank you. Is that a question or that's just the intro?
It's just an intro. It's just an intro. The other day we tried to move into an intro, and I was interrupted by a question, but I don't think there's a question here. So let me do the intro.
Yes.
And for our listeners and viewers, Sumaya Dabbagh is an accomplished Saudi architect whose creations, and we loved calling them creations, covered the span of 20 plus years. And touched communities in several cities. They range from commercial to residential projects, educational and cultural. I must say the Gargash Mosque is definitely one of the most mesmerizing buildings I personally have ever seen. Sumaya was nominated to multiple awards, namely the Aga Khan Awards and Women of Outstanding Achievements Award, and won many more, such as the Project of the Future Identity Design Award, the Grand Prize of the 12th Annual Yuanye Awards, and Principal of the Year of the Middle East Architectural Awards, to name just few. Sumaya is a strong believer in one's identity and cultural heritage and how they reflected in their work and creations. So, our dear Sumaya, as with every journey, and yours has certainly been a very, very rich one, it starts somewhere. In your case, was it in Bath University or much earlier through your love for identity and cultural history? And how did this help you build a contextual approach to design?
I think, I'm just trying to think where my journey started. I think, obviously, my childhood in Saudi and then moving to the UK at age 13 was quite an abrupt move. It wasn't really planned, and that was at an age where I started to be aware of things around me, aware of myself, and it was quite a shock to the system. But it really kind of jolted me into thinking, who am I? And at that age also you question, who am I at that age? And I think that's probably the start of the journey of really sort of self-search of who am I and what am I doing here? I would say if I was to pinpoint it, that would be the
start, yeah.
Yes.
And that seeking, when you said, what am I doing here? Did you mean, what am I doing here in London at age 13? Or what am I doing here in life, in the world?
What am I doing here in life? Yeah.
Right. That early on, Sumaya, at 13?
I mean, it's kind of, where am I? What am I doing?
It's such a milestone.
It's 13. Such a milestone.
It's such a real milestone.
And I really felt I was jolted out of my childhood.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a kind of an abrupt change of environment completely. I'm one of 6 children, and I was the youngest girl I was the 4th, and I was the youngest for a long time. And we had just lots of fun growing up and playing, and then suddenly you go to England and I'm at a school that is mixed.
Yes.
There's boys.
Yes.
Yes.
I was 13, pubescent, and in a totally different environment. So I think that combination just really jolted me into adulthood, and, or just kind of out of my childhood, I think.
And often these jolts bring up big questions. It's always like that in life. Big jolts bring in big questions.
But what I find gratifying in a way is that jolt, which can also be interpreted as a shock, on a personal level, on a cultural level, you talked about mixed schools, turned into something positive and beautiful because you identified it as the starting point for what, evolved into a really celebrated and quite an amazing career. It's interesting to see that it wasn't a blocker because these big questions can turn into an obstacle, right? And that's like we freeze, like, who am I? What am I doing here? And this cultural shock, which one should not underestimate, in your case, if I'm understanding correctly, turned into a motivator and a starting point to answer that question, who am I?
Yes, and I think my sort of inner quest started there. And it took me to lots of different places as well. I think yoga, once I got to university, my roommate, who was not at university, she was studying something else, and she was training to be a yoga teacher. So she introduced me to yoga, Iyengar yoga, which is a very specific yoga. And really that became awareness for me, again, awareness of my body, awareness of my mind, what's going on in my mind. If I'm saying I can't do this, is it my body or is it my mind saying that? So that journey really started, I think, with the yoga took me to these places. And so it was in parallel. I started yoga when I was at university and I graduated. And, through my sort of development in my career, yoga was always by my side. But Iyengar is a very detailed yoga. The idea is that you extend, you get the alignment, and it really brings awareness to such minute parts of your body. And that attention to detail really just went with architecture because I loved that. And, it kind of fulfilled my curiosity internally about my own body, where architecture, fulfilled the curiosity of the world outside.
You have like so many milestones from what I understand as well. And it's almost like you can name them one after the other. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about how you transitioned from one milestone to the other? Like what was moving you forward from one to the other, and why so clear also? Was that?
Well, I think the other milestone was once I graduated. Actually, the summer before I graduated from architecture school, I went to Bath University. And really, as I mentioned, from age 13, I felt I really needed to integrate to survive. It was really kind of a survival thing. And I think after the first year, which was very tough because my English was not up to, full fluency at that point. But after that, I went to sixth form college, which is kind of high school. And nobody asked me where I was from because my accent, I just kind of was very English. As you can hear, it's still there. And my name was a little bit strange for them, but, it wasn't a question. And again, I went into university, and just there was this need to really integrate. When I graduated, I decided I want to go to Paris for a bit. And I did. And there, everybody asked me where I came from because I didn't speak French.
Yeah.
And really, for me to say, you know, Saudian, je suis Saudian, I'm Saudi, I wasn't even used to hearing myself say it.
Amazing.
And at that point, 13 years in Saudi, 13 years in UK, and then my 25th, 26th year, I was in Paris. And so that thought, oh, wow, where is that part of me? That's kind of been hidden. You know, really it was hidden because I wanted to survive, I wanted to fit in, I wanted to integrate. And also, you know, I think your soul knows how to find its guides. Yes. I had on a bus in Paris, actually leaving a French class, this young woman was there, and I thought, gosh, she looks really familiar. I'm very sure she's Saudi. Anyway, we started talking, and then we became friends, and really quite a little bit later, we asked each other, where did you go to school? And she told me, Dar al-Hanan. And I said, oh my God, I went to Dar al-Hanan. We were in the same year, at school.
Unbelievable.
Wow. However, she was in Paris. She was listening to Arabic music and cooking Saudi food, and I thought, wow, you know, I want more of this. I want to discover that part of me that I've hidden for so long.
That's so beautiful. Those guides. I just picked the word guide. It's like signposts.
Yes.
Universe is signposts, whispers from the universe that you were listening to.
And what I picked up also is this trusting the guide that your soul provides. And
I mean, I can say that now. At the time,
you didn't know it.
Of course, yeah. But you know, it was happening. You may not have recognized it as such, but it was happening, and this is what kept you moving forward.
Yes.
And it's what I find interesting because, as with many, you know, expatriates, you know, and I went through the same process because, you know, my background is my father is Palestinian, my mother is Armenian. So growing up in Lebanon, I was never really considered to be a true Lebanese because, you know, Palestinian and Armenian backgrounds. Moved to Switzerland, where I've embraced the culture and the values because that's what you do when you move to a new place. As you were saying, you want to integrate, you want to belong. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you want to dilute your own identity, but you kind of recognize the elements of your new identity or the new culture you're in as your own, as your values. But I was often reminded that I'm not Swiss, you know, I'm Arab, I'm Lebanese. So that constant kind of, that perpetual yearning of belonging is what kind of fueled me because I've personally learned to balance my own identity and my acquired identity. And I hear similar things through your own journey. You wanted to integrate, and that kind of pushed you into one direction until you moved to another environment where the question was asked, who am I? Est-ce que je suis Saoudienne? That led you into the next phase of this belonging that you're looking for.
The beauty of all of that is also the contrast. You wouldn't even ask the question unless you have the contrast.
Exactly.
You wouldn't even yearn until there's contrast. And it takes an eye to recognize that there's a contrast and presence to go, huh.
And was it, well, in this case, I mean, it's not an obstacle, right? Because you just took that on board and you used it as a fuel to move forward, right? How did that reflect in your practice, or in when did you start set up your own practice?
Okay, so I set up my own practice 2008. Paris made me want to come back to the region because there again, you know, the Parisians, I felt, you know, they like to conform.
That's interesting. They like to conform. Coming from a Saudi, how how amazing to hear
Yeah,
that.
it is. Compared to the
Beautiful.
British, I think they're more conformist, the way they dress, everything. And I really felt it wasn't just, there was a French way, it was a Parisian way. And then I started to feel like these restrictions and strictures, and I thought, I don't want to go through this again. I don't want to have to adapt to another culture. I want to find my own.
Yeah.
And that's really when I came to Dubai. I really felt Dubai, because it's such a multicultural place, I felt I could be myself. I'm a mixture of the two cultures. I'm influenced by, I'm a Saudi, I'm Arab, but I'm also influenced by my education and perspective that I got from being in UK and Paris briefly. So I felt I could really be myself here, which is really interesting, to other people who think that there is more freedom in Europe and all of that. But it's, for me, this is how I felt that I can express both sides of me without feeling restricted or
And I think that
compromised.
duality is enriching by itself. Sometimes people might think about duality as restrictive. I'm using the words you are using, but I also hear that it's enriching. Probably this is also reflected in your work. That attachment to, I don't want to overuse the word identity. I feel I'm using it, but that attachment, everything has to be contextual.
And I think coming back professionally, it was tough. I felt there wasn't really much architecture happening. It was a lot of real estate. It was very commercially led. And I really felt that people just didn't get what I'm trying to do, what my passion was. And, I really believe that we can enhance people's lives by creating spaces that they live in, work in, or schools, or whatever it is. When the oil boom happened, it was a very different place here. It was very basic, and everybody wanted to move to modernity and thinking, that yes, we want to build these big houses or the city, but it just got more and more disconnected from their roots. In UAE, if you look, people, there were fishermen.
Yes.
Very connected to the sea. There were, in the mountains, the shepherds knew the mountains and knew their way around them, and in the desert the same way. And in really a short span of time, a lot of this got lost. There's a big disconnection from the environment, and I think it's a loss to the place, because we need to reconnect and find that connection to the land, and to who we are.
Well, it sounds like you're bringing people out of the jolt in the same way you were jolted at 13.
Yes.
Your work is that echo of your friend who asked you, for the first time when they asked you in Paris, and you had to say, I'm Saudi, and your work is almost echoing that, bringing in that perspective of seek who you are and bring it to the surface, away from the jolt. And now we have time to kind of, is that partly what is going on right now? Because that's a different milestone. I recognize it. I know that your milestone of bringing in the heritage and the belonging and highlighting that stuff is what brought you also the awards, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
From the outside, you start to see parallels of what's the inner journey and the outer journey, and yes. I'm sure that my inner journey has been instrumental in forming my outer journey in terms of the way that I approach to the work that I do. I think it's difficult to separate it. although actually they were quite separate for some time. You know, I did my yoga and I did my work, and I think probably doing more further, deeper self-inquiry, and I would pinpoint it to a milestone, which is 5 Rhythms movement that Lina introduced me to, that I'm forever grateful. Because through that, I was really able to find home in a way that it was very fleeting. I mean, the yoga did it, but you know, went to work and it was different. So I think this is where the two worlds started to merge, which is 2010.
Coming from your body, again, going back to like being able to come back home. When you say home, what I'm also getting out of that, you're actually referring to your body, to your insight, your inner search, your body, where it's taking you. And then that translated into the structures.
And the heart.
And the heart.
Yes.
Beautiful.
I hear all that, and I will never dare commenting on 5 Rhythms because it's something Lina's been trying, you know, for forever
it's been over
get me
a decade.
on board. And it's you know, it's turning into this kind of this kind of very elusive thing that, you know, that's so attractive, but yet you're kind of afraid to approach. But, and I close the parenthesis on 5 Rhythms. What I hear, Sumaya, is, and it's reflected also in how you spoke about the oil boom and the rapid, I don't want to say modernization, but the rapid development of the place, and how you also went through these different milestones of your life. Authenticity seems to be very important. Authenticity seems to be essential, whether we're true to ourselves, to who we are, where we are. How important was that in keeping you moving forward? Every step you have described, I found that element. Did you live that?
Definitely. I think I don't know. I never questioned it. It's a given for me to be true to myself and be authentic. I don't know how to be otherwise, I think. I mean, Lina knows probably, but I'm really never been really drawn to superficial relationships. You know, I go deep and intense. I'm not, so that's just been part of my, I think it's just my personality, my calling. I don't do well in those kind of environments.
I recall at one point that all of this was really kept to yourself. There was a lot of going on in here, a lot of that creativity that all artists, and you're by all intents and purposes are an artist, happens within. And then suddenly I remember the year where everything started going boom outwards. And there was that visibility, that the work started coming out, and we were celebrating how you were entered. The Maliha archaeological site was entered with Dubai Opera for an award, and you won it. And we were just over the moon, because here we are with homegrown, for lack of a better word, who's from here, who's able to represent, the whispers of the space and its elements, and also in a progressive way. What was it? What was that moment? What turned this for you around suddenly?
I mean, I think this connection with the body and the heart has been really fundamental, because what it really helps is to filter the mind, because, as I mentioned, I'm very hard on myself. I can be very hard on myself. This perfectionist thing means that you're really hard on yourself. It has advantages, but it means that you're hard on yourself.
Where does it come from?
It comes from my childhood, really. with expectations from parents and wanting everything to be perfect. And so that internal battle started to be a bit tamed the more I was able to find my home, which is in my body and in my heart.
So your heart and your body are the engine of potential? Is that finally, when the mind is out of the way, you're moving, you're able to propel forward because your body and your heart are really know you more?
Well, it's a lot of intuition as well. I mean, there's the analytical side as well, but you go from one to the other. But I think really trusting my intuition more, being in my body, being connected to myself, trusting more that part, that and letting go of the inner critic and doubt, basically that the mind can take you to.
Well, acknowledging them, but not allowing them to hold
run
you
the
back.
show.
Yes,
Run the
exactly.
show, right?
Exactly.
Is that a thing of age, do you think? Does that come with age? Does it come with practice? Does it come with other people maybe? I mean, what is the secret of that specific hack?
Yeah, I don't think you're asking me the question, but before Sumaya answers, I'll give my own take at it. I think because, I wouldn't talk about age, but it comes from lived experiences and shared experiences, which kind of, because we talked, and I think you're right. It is a hack, because one of the questions is that how do we overcome these obstacles or these challenges or this inner critique? And I love that word, because there's nobody worse as a critic to ourselves than ourselves,
yes.
right? And how do we tackle that so that it doesn't hold us back? And on the contrary, it allows us to move forward. And what you just shared with us now is this authenticity, but this harmony with yourself, this acceptance of oneself, which again comes through the heart and body. And before loving others, we need to love ourselves first. But others are there as well. And this is a fascinating journey that you've been describing to us. Has it been a journey on your own, or has it been a journey with others? And what role would they play?
Oh, yes. I mean, I've had so many supporters or guides. There's a new that just came to me today throughout my journey that I'm very, very grateful for, both professionally and personally. Professionally, maybe a little bit later on, I was able to find like-minded people who kind of got what I'm trying to do, that I was able to speak to, and also other business owners that have helped me in the way. Because starting my own business in 2008, I was very naive, which I'm very happy about, because I wouldn't have started the business if I knew more. But that sort of optimism and trust and jumping is, I mean, I have done that in my life, and I think it's a blessing, because otherwise you will never try anything. I am grateful for all the people that have been my support. My husband is a coach. He's an executive coach, so I get a lot of coaching for free, let's say, free or for favors.
There's a roll of the eye that happened there as well as a big smile.
Yes.
Both of them together came in the same package. You said something at the beginning about Dubai, which feels like this is what you're saying also again here, which is you liked coming to Dubai because it gives permission to all the parts of who you are to integrate, and it has space for everything and everyone. And it feels like that's also what is shaping now your world, like that you've made space for all the parts of you to come through with the acceptance, with the permission, with the coaching, with Tom's, including Tom's executive coaching. I'm just wondering what one key highlight challenge would you say is the biggest challenge that you overcame on your own without anybody's help?
Of course, I mean, there's a lot of support, but it's a personal journey at the end of the day. And I think realizing also that it's up to me to create what I want to create, in a way that it's up to me to get rid of the mental obstacles that stop me from doing what I want to do. And I think I think probably from age 13, I've realized that I need to do this, like, rather than it's something outside of me. And at times it's hard, it's tough, because there's a sense of you're on your own here kind of thing. At age 13, it was a tough realization. And I think through the journey, I've realized more and more that I'm not alone. And I think also, I'm spiritual, I'm Muslim, I feel connected to God, to a higher power, because I really feel that when I am in the flow, or I'm really connected in my heart, there's a channeling. I mean, it's not me. When I walk into the mosque or Malehad, just before it was completed, I could feel they just took a life of their own. And it kind of gives me goosebumps still, is that I thought, how did that happen? Who created this?
Yeah.
And it's very special, and it's very magical, I have to say. There's a privilege to do that, to be that vehicle, because it's much bigger than me.
It's very fulfilling also.
Yeah,
it's very fulfilling, because it's a realization that happens right there at the moment. And as you said, when you were 13, you didn't think about how all is going to unfold. But I hear the same things, like when you walk into a new project or a new environment that you have created, it's happening. And throughout the process, you wouldn't think that it would happen.
I don't know, and I still think, okay, we're about to got two big major projects under construction. We have another mosque under construction and a museum in Elaine under construction. And he was like, how is this going to turn out? There's that, because it's, again, that I think with the creative process, my idea of how it goes at this time, it's not a concluded thing. I think I put a lot of heart into what I do, and I really enjoy what I do, and I think that's reflected somehow in the work.
You said there's an inner guide, like that's bigger than you. And it feels like that's the ultimate. It feels like it comes from within and then grows out and emanates, and it's a lot bigger than you, and it takes a life of its own, and it's very palpable when you look at the work. I know when like your mosque, the feeling that you get is beyond anything that the structure on its own can ever do, and it's coming like in the Arab world, the nahhas that you put into food, and it's like the nahhas that is coming through you and emanating into that work. And I'm curious about your next work. From here, where is that nahhas you think is taking you?
Well, I mentioned there's two projects that are happening now. My also dream is to build something in Jeddah, my hometown, and Saudi in general. And we're working towards that.
Beautiful. How does that feel to go back to Saudi? You just came, I think, from a few visits.
Last month.
Has that changed for you over the years and through your work and through all the seeking you've been doing?
It's a very different place to when I grew up, and it's a very different place to 5 years ago. So it's changing very fast, and it's almost difficult to take on how quickly things have changed. But I think the awareness about culture and heritage is definitely kind of 180 degrees to what it was only 10 years ago. So that is really encouraging, and I hope to contribute to that part of it.
Well, I think that's a very noble purpose,
and quite congruent with going home.
Exactly. Exactly.
Finding home.
But also very, very much in line with what you have been telling us about. It's yourself manifesting in different ways, and that connection to the place which you have left years ago is showing up in a way that can only be true to yourself. I'm trying to put all these words together to relive what you are sharing with us. We'll be looking forward to that. I would love to go and visit your next project in Saudi, and I don't want to call it project. It's like the next creation. There you go.
We did it.
There you go. We did it. We reached out to some of your friends, to your contacts, and they were
It's my favorite part.
very generous to contribute with questions that we will play now, and they're hoping that you will answer them.
Sure.
So we'll play the first question, Sumaya.
Hi, Sumaya. What I'd love to ask you is, how do you balance running a successful business and all the stresses that come with that, and with your need to design and express creativity? How do you get into your most creative flow state?
That's a really good question. Elaine, thank you very much for that. It's, I mentioned earlier, running a business is a very different story from just designing, and balancing the two is at quite a lot of the time is tough. I find myself doing a lot of the business part in terms of the numbers and the commercial part, which I've learned how to do, but it's not what I love doing. So I think gradually I'm delegating these things to my team so I can free myself up to do more of what I love. I mean, I do what I love anyway, and I think, at the different stages of design projects, but I think I'm realizing that I need to get the opposite balance to do more of that, and by really delegating and training my team to do what takes a lot of time, and it's not necessarily my
Cup of tea.
My cup of tea.
We do have another question.
I love this.
Where did you live throughout your life, and how did that impact your practice and or the way you see the world?
That's Noor, my cousin, who is really dear to me. We mentioned UK and Paris, and then Dubai, and I think we've probably covered some of that, but often when you have this contrast, it's a kind of a mirror to you. And I wonder sometimes, if I didn't go to UK, how my life would have taken. And it's those mirrors that you are presented with, and which kind of pushed me towards that inner journey more, I think, definitely.
And that's what, when we're talking about lived experiences, but shared lived experiences, it's every moment in our life is a milestone by itself. At the time, we may not recognize it, but with hindsight, and hindsight is such a tricky thing, right? Say, okay, this is what was really happening, and this is what it helped me in moving forward. And once we have this totality, I don't want to say age, but it's also got a broader perspective of things. Yeah, exactly. Then we come to appreciate the different phases and different stages and the learnings associated with that. We have a bonus question. We had Nadine Kanso, the jewelry designer, on our show. And when we told her that we're hosting you, she wanted to ask you a question, if you don't mind. So.
Yes.
Sumaya, you've done amazing works. What would be your ultimate, or building to design, or mosque, or what would be a dream for you to do?
Well, I'd like to actually design my own home. It's not the ultimate, but that's something that I would love to do. And have an idea of it from like 20 years ago, that it's going to be on some seaside place, but I haven't found the spot. We're still searching. Apart from that, I think I've been really fortunate to work on museum projects. They're kind of dream jobs for any architect. I would love to do something in Saudi, a significant project like a museum in Saudi Arabia.
The thread, I'm loving it. Yeah. The home of the body, the home in Saudi, and building your home is your dream project. I mean, how magical the orchestration has been. Thank you for that.
And how genuine and how true to oneself. I'm trying to summarize what are Sumaya's life hacks through your journeys, and you just did, right? It's like this authenticity, this union between oneself and oneself, we union with ourselves. So, Sumaya, this has been so inspiring. Thank you so much. We can't thank you enough for joining us, and for what you have shared with us, for the love that you have shared with us, with yourself, and with our viewers and audience, hopefully. And we wish you nothing but, I don't want to say success, because you have it, but nothing but joy and pleasure in what you're going to do next, because I think that will be the true celebration of success, as if it's something that's very joyful, very fulfilling to oneself. And we can't wait. We really can't wait to see that happening.
Well, thank you so much. It's been really enjoyable and wonderful to have hosts that just really talk from heart to heart. And thank you for this opportunity.
If you had one sentence to give as an advice for those who are much younger, coming from your older self now to the younger ones, what would it be?
Don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sumaya,
Thank you
so much
Sumaya.
for your time. It was beautiful.
Thank you both.
Beautiful in its cadence as well, and its tempo, as your what you've given permission to yourself, which is that slowing down. It was really it felt so calm and soothing, just like the song. It felt soothing, actually.
Indeed.
So thank you.
Well, this has been Forward Moves, hosted by Lina, Nahhas, and Raja Haddad, a conversation about the path of Sumaya Dabbagh's journey. Our producer is Aziz. We've been recording at the Podster Studios in Dubai, and we hope you liked this episode, and if anything it made you think and inspired you, and if it did, please do leave us a comment and a 5 stars rating and recommend it to your friends. Until then, keep moving forward.